and we'll make sure that we're rolling.
3, 2, 1.
Is this on yet? Are we on yet? What's going on?
Are we live yet? I think we are.
We're not live right now. We're not live.
I think we are. This is the pre-show.
Oh,
Man, what a show we've got tonight. Oh my God, this is going to be a good one. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Fucking A, we have a legend on the show tonight. But everybody's doing good?
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Feeling
Doing
great.
good. Back here in the rain. I came from snow and now back here to some rain, which is kind of crazy. Have to tell you, do not
At
miss
least in the last few days it has rained, you know.
Yeah, do not miss Minnesota weather. 8 below or 8 above. No,
Are you
thank
saying you want to be there for it, or you're saying don't miss it?
No, I do not miss that at all.
All right, I think we're are we good?
Yep.
We're good.
Not quite. Mark's making sure. Hold on. We're making sure that technically
Okay, so what did you
we
guys
are
do
good.
on St. Patrick's Day?
Drank green beer.
Yeah.
Then threw up green vomit.
Oh,
No.
okay.
I'm just kidding. I didn't actually do that.
Yeah.
All right, guess what, guys? It's time. Are we ready?
Let's
go.
All right, here we go. We're gonna launch this baby. Let me make sure this is clicked, and here we go.
The Rock and Talk Show, Beyond Backstage, with your hosts, Norwood Fisher, Kenny Olson, Scott Page, Stephen Perkins, Sheila Conlon, and David Moss.
And welcome to the Rock and Talk Show, the bi-monthly show that dives deep into the entertainment industry, the business of it, the stories around it, the culture, and everything in between. I'm the Moss Man. Let me quickly introduce my amazing co-hosts. Well, sitting right next to me, right here, we got the one and only, the legendary Kenny Olson in the house, all the way from Detroit, Michigan. All the way from Santiago, Chile, we've got the one and only Stephen Perkins down there in South America, rocking the world with Jane's Addiction.
Hola.
Norwood Fisher from Fishbone, Trulio Disgracious, Sheila Conlon from the Conlon Company, and Scotty Page from Pink Floyd, Toto Supertramp, downtown LA, doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
How we doing?
Doing great.
Yeah. Hey,
We're
Scott, did
together
you get a
again.
haircut? Did you get a haircut?
I did get my hair cut a little bit. Yes.
You got to fight with a lawnmower?
I got five. It looks like I got them all cut.
Yeah, you got them all cut this time.
this
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I know. I look almost a little Jiminy Crickety, getting a little perk in me.
So we had an amazing show last time. We missed you, Sheila, on the show. You were out and about dealing with personal stuff.
Yes.
We had the amazing Maggie Rose
Yeah.
on the show, and
Nashville.
our guitar virtuoso, Angela Petrelli. We want to just thank them for joining us.
That was a good show.
Tonight, though, before we talk a little amongst ourselves, I mean, tonight we have a true legend on the show, probably the most legendary rock journalist of all time, the one and only BEN FONG-TORRES. He'll be joining us shortly, and later on, Cassidy Fleeman of the Anti-Groupies will be joining us for a live musical performance at the end of the show. But Perk, let's hear from you, dude. You, a couple days ago, man, you lived through the big old earthquake, 7.7.
Well, I'm in Santiago, so it wasn't feeling that big here. It may have been somewhere in the epicenter that big, but yeah, we were just about to go to sound check, and the hotel started rocking, and I was thinking, this doesn't feel like this should be what I want to know when I get in the elevator going downstairs, and I'm in a room full of glass. So, but the earthquake was no big deal. The concerts have been amazing. We did Buenos Aires, Lollapalooza, incredible. And then we did the Lollapalooza in Santiago. And then we did a club date in Santiago. And now we just got to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And we're partying for another 3 more days.
Wow. Hey, that Mikey posted from you playing where you were just killing it. And then he panned over to see the audience. Dude, how big was that?
Yeah, how many?
Yeah, the audiences, and especially in South America, there's so much passion and they're so into it. We had 3 or 4 slam pits happening at once. They were singing between songs like it was a football game. And then, of course, I went and found myself an Argentinian soccer shirt,
That's
put
awesome.
that on, and I won the crowd over at the end with that one. That was
That's
that was
awesome.
the clincher.
Yeah, you got to play that clip, Dave. If you know where it is, it would be fun to see that. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
man. So we got to bring Think down here because they love music, they love to eat, they love to party, and that's what we like to do as well, right?
I
Yeah.
mean, speaking of Think freaking killed it a couple nights ago last
Yeah.
night at Hotel Ziggy in Hollywood. Well,
Another
part
big
of
night.
NFTLA. Scott, talk about it.
Yeah, so it's this week is NFTLA, now known as the Outer Edge, formerly known. It's a formerly known as. Took the Prince model. Yeah, we're out here. It's exciting. I'm having a blast. I'm actually just launching this whole collection. You know, I talked about. I got some 54 NFTs actually going to the moon. They're actually going to be launched in the moon in June. It's going up on this big Elon Musk thing, and they're dropping off. It's the first time anybody's going to actually go onto the moon. So it's not just a flyby. They're going to go on, and I'm part of this. So I'm very excited about that. We showed that off the other night. Think is represented there. So we're all on the moon also, which is good. So we're at NFT here, and we're actually launching our platform, which is very exciting. We've been working about a year on this. It's called Loot 8. And it's a whole NFT platform. We're having great success with that here today. We're having our booth, and then we've been having a great time. So I'm very excited about this space, and it's great to see we're seeing a lot more musicians starting to see this space and getting into it. So I'm very bullish on the NFT market. So
By the way,
sorry.
I was just going to say, you don't need Elon Musk to put you all on the moon.
well, I'm afraid.
Anymore.
Fortunately, we do, because he's the only one that's got this rocket that'll get us there.
The rocket.
You guys
But
are
I just wanted to say it was a great show. And Perks, of course, we miss you terribly. But everyone killed it, and we're so happy to have Kenny here in town with us.
Yeah.
And we rocked Hotel Ziggy again. Off the chain, millions of people there, millions. Not as many as your show, Perk.
And Familiar Faces rocked it, opened up for Think X, and they tore it up. They killed it.
Yeah,
They killed
Amazing.
I know. So it was really great. So we're feeling the effects today a little bit, but we were happy. We had a great time last night, right, Norwood?
Hell yeah! I love it when we get together and do our doohickey thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, tonight, and before we do that, just make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Click like, quick subscribe, click notifications, all that fun stuff. Tonight, right now, we want to bring in our special guest. He is truly a legendary journalist. I would say the most legendary rock journalist of all time. One of the founding editors of Rolling Stone magazine. They made a movie about him 20 years ago called Almost Famous. He's interviewed every major rock and roll star in the history of rock and roll. Please welcome to the Rock and Talk Show, the one and only Ben Fong-TORRES. Hey, Ben, how are you? Are you there? Hey, Ben.
There he is. He's connecting.
There he is. Ben, can you hear us?
Yep, I
Hey.
can. Now I can see everybody.
Good afternoon.
Welcome
Good
to the
afternoon,
Rock and Talk
any
Show.
of you.
Thank you so much for being here with us. It's an honor.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, David, I sent a quick question for you. Is this an audio-only program in the end?
It's audio and video.
Oh, I should have dressed.
Oh, you're good. You look wonderful, Ben.
You're very you
Sure.
look presentable.
All right, thank you. I'll take that.
Well,
So-
on that note,
Go ahead, Steve.
well, talking about dress, when you guys were sitting around writing about rock and roll, you guys looked like you were in a rock and roll band too. It was like the journalists were free to do what they wanted, it seemed, and from dress to what they wrote and to what they thought. And I think things are so different now. Of course, everything changes. Rock and roll's changed. But what a great freedom you must have, and what great relationships to have with labels and agents and musicians and promoters. I mean, it must have been beautiful. Can you tell us about how cool that was?
Sure. Just watch Daisy Jones in the Six.
Okay.
There you go.
There you
Those
go.
are the times.
That
It
was easy.
different. It was a different world, a different time. And the way it worked out, at least at Rolling Stone, was that we dressed however the hell we wanted to. And that went for both the office and for interviews. Of course, we ran into totally casual folks wherever we went professionally. And of course, to concerts and other events. And so it was natural that some of us might have a uniform of T-shirts and jeans. Others might be decked out with a shirt and tie. That was the case with our copy editor, Charles Smokestack El Ropo Perry.
Oh, wow.
I dressed depending on how much laundry I had to do and left me to bring to the office or to wear to the office. But yeah, total cash. And you just kind of, there was certainly no dress code. There was no particular style dictum. You were who you were. And so, yeah, when I look at the documentary about me, where they had some footage of me running to the airplane house, the Jefferson Airplane House on 2400 Fulton, or sitting at my cubicle, I suppose, more than an office, slamming away on the Royal typewriter, I had suspenders on. But that was probably just because Rolling Stone that year or that month had begun to do a giveaway of suspenders in honor of Peter Frampton or some such. And so, whenever there were goodies to be had, I would get them. So that's why I was captured in Peter Frampton suspenders.
Yeah.
Talking about,
I'm curious, again, it's always interesting when you first meet a celebrity, right? You never know what they're going to be like. If thinking back, who was the artist or whatever where you saw them in different situations that completely surprised you on who they were and how they reacted and where were they at? I mean, who was the biggest surprise where you had a different thought in your head of what they would be like and they completely flipped you around? I'm just curious because I know a few for myself that I went, huh?
Sure. Yeah, no, yes, that was indeed the case. And I'm trying to think of which ones to bring up who were really different from what I expected. Because with Bob Dylan, for example, you knew at that time that he was a mystery man and that he was difficult to to comprehend and understand, both his interviews and some of his songs. And so I expected problems with him, but the big problem, as it turned out, was that when I pulled out my cassette recorder, he said, "No tape." And that was because he had been trespassed upon by various collectors and groupies and followers and ultra fans. And so he didn't want that. And that kind of threw me for a loop. So that was a big surprise to have to suddenly be using a notepad and writing down the stuff he was saying that I could understand. And then Marvin Gaye was one who, like Paul McCartney, I clumped them together because they're both media savvy. With Marvin, a wonderful fellow, he greeted me at the door of his house outside of Detroit with something like scotch, water, grass, and
what else?
After we had settled in there, he admitted that he was saying stuff to align with who he perceived to be the media who was showing up. He would not have said crap to a writer from Time magazine, for example, but certainly for Rolling Stone. So McCartney was kind of the same way. I saw him in different press and media situations as well as one-to-one. And he was so different in different venues and on different platforms because he was speaking for television cameras. And so he would be more showy. He was also speaking for radio. So he articulated and enunciated. He was speaking to newspapers and magazines. And so he would have a certain hipness level of how much he would tell you, a couple of behind the scenes stories to reward you for giving him promotional value. He just knew the game and still knows it. He knows how to play it as well as anybody. And that brings him to things like the James Gordon show, where he does carpool karaoke and then guides him on a tour of Liverpool and the Beatles' old apartment buildings. And he just knows how to play the game. And
That's like that's one of the coolest James Corden carpool karaoke's is that McCartney one.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Ben, I want to know is who enticed you into partying way more than you think you should have?
Well, that was Kate Hudson, wasn't it?
I think it was Fishbone. Actually, a roommate of mine, a best pal from college and post-college days, went into become a pioneer in a way of video production, and he actually worked on a video with Fishbone. And for whatever reason, the lead guitar player left his guitar behind, and I think the band went off on tour because Tom tried to chase after them to let him know that he had his red guitar.
I know the reason.
What?
I know the reason. That was a bottle of Jägermeister, probably.
Well,
I'll tell Tom that I finally met a member of Fishbone myself.
Can retrieve the guitar.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I got a question.
Partying with bands. Let's see. You know what? No, because I'm Capricorn. So I'm a hard worker. I was raised to meet deadlines and be responsible. This is from my resume as a Chinese American son of a couple of restaurant owners who turned their kids into basically slave labor, and yet we accepted it. But it taught me some stuff about how to do things and get them done right, get it done fast, and be serious about the work. And so that in some way transferred many years and worlds later into life at Rolling Stone. So when I finished reporting a story, seeing a concert, doing my interviews, I was pretty much in a mode to meet the deadline. And of course, the thing is that Jan Wenner, for whatever reason, decided to put out a magazine every 2 weeks instead of once a month, as God intended. And so we were constantly under deadline pressure. And even if I was writing a cover story, traveling to, let's see, being on the road with Linda Ronstadt, for example, or McCartney, or George Harrison, or Bob Dylan, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the fact was that you had to turn around, grab an airplane, come back, and turn that story in, whether it's 3,000 to 8,000 words, within a few days. And while you're doing that, because I'm the music editor, I also oversee music coverage in the front of the book, the section with all the various smaller stories. And I had taken over the job of writing random notes. And so I also would find a couple of hours to collate through the reports and clippings and stuff from our correspondents and bureaus and newspaper clippings and stuff I had accumulated over the weeks, the days, and then jam on random notes and put that together. Then go back to the cover story and get that finished. And then perhaps even edit a few other writers' stories, the ones in the music section.
Wow.
So there was not a lot of time to hang with Sly, if you know what I'm saying.
And that's why you're here today to tell this
He
story.
had the goods. He had the goods.
you need the time. You need the time to do it right when you're with Sly.
Right on.
Yeah.
Kenny, you got a question, Kenny. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, growing up like in Detroit, and your masterpiece works have been a part of my roadmap in this music industry. And Cream Magazine, I grew up around the corner from their office, and Tom Wright and all those guys. And but anyway, there was so much soul and substance to your writing where, you became more like the people you were doing interviews with, they trusted you to tell their story. And that's what I found so amazing about it. And as I recall on it all, and being that part of it now, the way the industry is, and you see like the future, obviously for us musicians, is changed so much. And just like you said, it was a whole different world then. where that soul and substance and the stories were there. And nowadays, with all these different journalists and just all the blog and all the different things out there, how do you feel it's really been affected to really still capture those kind of moments? Or is it because it's such an ADD world now, it's really confusing how it really goes out to the masses, because everybody is so me now, and they're missing out on the beautiful, stories that, like your work, for example.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I would agree that substantial music journalism of any genre of music is way, way different today than it was. We're talking 50 years ago when I was doing this stuff in the mid 70s. And so, yeah, it was an entirely different world and had begun changing probably about 25 years ago. As soon as the corporate mentality took over the promotion and marketing of music, not to mention the production of and the A&R aspects of who to sign and what you're looking for as a potential talent on your roster. The fact is that it had changed many years ago. And I remember writing in the, must have been the 80s or early 90s for Parade magazine. At that time, the biggest circulation publication in the world. And it was in every Sunday newspaper, whether they wanted it or not. And so I did a story on Tim McGraw, the country superstar, and went to Ohio to around Riverfront Stadium, I think he was performing. And the publicist said, okay, you're here, great. You have half an hour with him in this room next to the stage. And if you don't mind, I'd like to hang out and basically to hear what I'm going to be asking and circumvent any questions that she thought might be something he shouldn't respond to. So, and that is for the largest publication magazine in the world. So what do they do to other people? Well, I do know, because I've witnessed those kinds of things too, where for a movie promotion or a tour of a superstar, they put reporters at round tables in the hotel room, and the star pops into each table and glad hands them, answers a few questions and moves on to the next table. So you get ultimately a minute with the person you're trying to write a story about. And that was around the same time frame as McGraw and Ellen DeGeneres and Al Green and a few others that I was doing for Parade. And so I'm kind of glad I got out of it when I did, because boy, we had it good. I mean, trying to find Bob Dylan after a concert, and he was mad. His people were mad at Rolling Stone because we had exposed, or we had criticized the promoters for daring to charge as much as $9.50 for a ticket. But
those bastards, damn it.
But it's a golden era, because your work is timeless and it is preserved in time. Nowadays people are just, it's here, gone.
Oh, sure. It's just online, or it's it's on all these different platforms that people can't really keep unless they save them on the cloud, and that's about it. So I'm aware that I was very lucky.
I'm curious. Go ahead.
Also, I was going to say, kind of like the.
Go ahead, Bert.
Well, I was going to say, kind of like the early
kids, one at a time.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like the early DJs in Los Angeles. We had Jim Ladd on KMET, and these are the voices that helped us find the music that we couldn't find unless someone kind of blew the dust off it. And that's what you did for me. You open up a magazine, or you get your brother's magazine and you get it out of his room, you bring it to your room and you read about stuff. It's like going to a record store. You look at the covers, and it's the cover. You go bite and you go chase it because there's something there you don't know. There's a mystery. And in your magazine, what you wrote about, you open the door just a little enough to open the window for the mystery. And I say, you know what? I'm going to check out that band. I'm going to go listen to ELP, or I'm going to go discover what, Peter Gabriel's second record is going to sound like. So there was something, we would trust you guys. And that as a musician, that trust is such a great thing to know we're all there to find art, discover art, and share it.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of criticism and not so much sharing of the information, and they just want to what's wrong with things. And of course we can find something wrong with everything, but I think that's what's great about art. It's not perfect. It should be a little bit wrong.
I'm sure there's still a good number of people who have that same kind of spirit of wanting to share the wealth of the best of the music. But your thought about borrowing your brother's or stealing your brother's magazine reminds me that one of my more recent interviews was an onstage interview following the a screening in San Francisco of Summer of Soul. With Amir Questlove. He was on stage, and I met him before, and he said, "Man, I've been reading you since I was a kid before I could read Rolling Stone." His father was a member of a doo-wop group, the Hearts, Lee Andrews and the Hearts. And Amir grew up with a musician father and glommed onto Billboard and Rolling Stone. And he said that he had my articles cut and pasted on his walls of his bedroom.
Wow.
And that's how he got, and when he was able to read and allowed to read Rolling Stone, then he caught up on the back issues and learned my stuff from the late 60s into the mid 70s, I guess, because I did cover a lot of soul music artists. And so it was just wonderful that we could sit there before we went on stage and just kind of let it out and say, well, I know, Amir, that you like Soul Train. Well, guess what? Diane and I, early in our relationship, watched Soul Train every Saturday and knew the Soul Train gang. I finagled a story. I assigned myself a story to go down to LA and be on the set of Soul Train, meet Mr. Cornelius, Diane, meet her favorite dancers from the Soul Train line.
That's cool.
That kind of stuff happens. It's not us thinking, oh, we're going to be kind of educational or instructive or in any way. And I did radio on Sundays while at Rolling Stone on KSAN, which was the sister station of the mighty KMET. And so
best station in San Fran.
We had our own gym lads, Tom Donahue and his wife Rachel Donahue kind of co-managed both stations. And we all were in the game for the same reasons, to have a great time, play music we loved, and then if by chance it connected with our listeners and we could turn them on to something, whether it's a songwriter, a singer, a band, an upcoming concert, whatever it was, we were happy to do that for 4 or 5 hours, in my case, a week. I could not work at Rolling Stone and also have a daily shift on KSAN. So I settled for Sundays.
Your documentary is incredible. I mean, the many lives we've already lived, and that section of the documentary when it was talking about that was just awesome.
I have a question for you, Ben. You were worried that an hour might be too long. I'm worried that an hour is like 2 hours too short, to be honest with you, because there's so much we want to talk about. But you've interviewed the greatest names in rock history, like, from Jim Morrison to Grace Slick to Bob Dylan to Paul McCartney to George Harrison. I'm curious about how you prepare and what your methods are for preparing for an interview like that. Do you go in blind like us, or do you actually have a method to the madness to prepare for those major interviews?
That is hilarious. So now, which one of you is George Harrison? Huh?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There's preparation.
Which one's pink?
Yeah.
No, I always felt that to get the best out of an interview situation, you had to accord the subject or subjects with respect, and respect meant knowing them already.
What's your dog's name?
Marley.
All right, Marley.
Oh, yeah.
Is Marley gonna do a cameo?
He smokes a lot, boy. He was Charlie when we got him about 1.5 years ago, and I said, no, he ain't gonna be Charlie. We're gonna make him Marley for Bob. So
I love it.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
About your methods to the madness.
Preparation. So yes, of course, back then we didn't have online or anything like that. We used liner notes from albums, previous articles from newspapers and magazines, listening to or watching the product of the subject. Just getting whatever there was out there on them. You could also, of course, talk to the publicist, who will send you press releases and lots of puffery, but at the same time, you can get very important basic information about the upcoming tour, who's on the album, blah, 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 and go in there, hopefully with a number of questions that they haven't already heard a dozen times before.
Right.
And hopefully not to ask too many questions that can get a simple yes or no, because if that person is shy or not feeling it, well, then she or he is going to take advantage of that and say, yeah, next question. So you want to ask them to tell stories, basically. You also don't want to do a rote question and answer. You got to be conversational. You got to follow their thought and do a follow-up question. Let them illuminate further. I think in the documentary, John Burks, my editor early on at Rolling Stone, said that I had this thing of asking subjects to tell me more, basically, which also means the spotlight is on you, dude. Okay, it's not, I don't want to tell you about my background and then therefore, how do you feel about that? No,
Right.
I just want to know how you feel about that. This is your moment. And so that's pretty much what I did. It was preparation, manners, thinking about the other person. And I do that too on stage. I'm very aware that the audience is there. They may by now know who I am, but I'm not concerned with that. I want them to know who this person is and who she is and what they have done and how they did it and what they want to do next. So that's my agenda.
I love that. You
That's
and I
perfect.
met, sorry, Scott, you and I met, I don't know, 10 years ago when you were writing
Yeah,
a book
10 years ago.
for Little Feat. And, I did the Little Feat radio hour and often interviewed other artists. And what I found, what you just kind of sort of said was, I found that when I was asking a question that they've never been asked before. And when you're talking about a band like Little Feat to a Dave Matthews or whoever it may be, they're so excited to talk about their favorite band, and nobody's ever asked that question before. It really was a great catalyst for opening up the conversation and creating an environment for a good interview. Go ahead, Scott. I didn't mean to jump on you.
No problem. I'm so interested in thoughts about, like, what is your thought about all this AI stuff, chat GBT and writing? And do you see it as friend or foe or usable, or are you paying any attention to it? Or just because, it has such an effect on writers right now, right? Because you can see the whole system completely changing around. Where you can also see it as an incredible tool to have open to bring information and add your stuff to. But what are your thoughts about what's going on?
Well, yeah, it strikes me as potentially dangerous, and anything that circumvents the hard work of research, study, and writing is not. I'm not for it.
Yeah.
AI has already struck at me. I got a Google alert.
Oh,
Maybe we do need a couple of hours.
Yeah, we'll
I should
stay
talk-
as long as you want.
I should talk about it. That's all there is to it.
I agree.
I got a Google alert about 2-3 weeks ago, and it said something about how AI has chosen the 10 worst alternative rock songs or records of the 90s in the style of Ben Fong-Torres.
what?
This was on a website called X96 out of some a city in Utah, I believe.
Wow.
And so I went to it and looked it up, and there it was. Well, number one, I was never a rock critic, so there's nothing to go on about me.
It doesn't hold water.
In the course of a profile, I might just say that this particular album from Bonnie Raitt really stands out from her previous work on Warner Brothers because blah, 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 and I dig it, or I liked Emmylou Harris's latest album because she really now has solidified her status as a country as well as a folk singer, stuff like that. But that's not rock criticism. Anyway, the top 10 of the worst songs, in my view, according to AI, included at number 5 a woman I'm interviewing in 2 days on stage, the 20th Saturday, Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
And the song is Ironic, which is ironic because I like that song and I like her. But there you are. AI now will probably say, in the style of Moss Man, write up a radio script for him to talk about Train, or any particular band I know you love. And, that's how it's going to go. And people will there will be just enough people taking it seriously that I'll be confronted by some old punk on the street saying, "What's wrong with Who Let the Dogs Out?" or whatever.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel the same way. I mean, I think it's probably one of the most dangerous things because of the bias that can be put in, the misinformation, because whoever controls the algorithms wins, right? So at the end of it gets a little crazy. Yeah. I mean, when you're seeing what's going on with writers and what can happen, I mean, you can see the fun and the delight of throwing some words up and getting something back or a piece of art. But at the end of the day, it's like, I look at AI as like, it's soulless, right? It's just really information. But here we are. Like, I can imagine, taking all of your articles, training it and say, right, just like Ben, right? And all of a sudden it's going to start pulling all your kind of way you think, how you pull this stuff. And then we're sitting here programming this stuff every day. Every day we're feeding the beast with prompts of things to think about. It's learning us. So yeah, it's fascinating. I was just curious about your thought on it as obviously a writer. It's going to affect every writer. There's no question.
Well, in my view, writing in the style of Ben Fong-Torres is not advised.
Well, when you're making a record and the producer wants you to play like another band, can you play like this? Can you play like that? And you're taking away the originality of the musician. And it's nice to reference, I think, ideas and harmonies and sounds, but it's really great when you can be yourself. And as a musician like Fishbone, Kenny, Scott, myself, we get to play with people that want us to be ourselves. Yeah. And that includes warts and all, Yeah. That's what's great about music. And I think,
well, there's one thing that I want to make sure we bring up, and I know you've been asked this a million times, but it's just so iconic. And it meant the word. I mean, one of my favorites is obviously Almost Famous. I mean, it's so fabulous. And your story, I mean, how did someone come to you to go, let's do this? Was that James? No, who was that? Cameron Crowe, right?
Yes.
And it was just so fascinating. That story is so beautiful.
Yeah,
it's
Cameron.
Story.
It's all Cameron.
The movie? How close was the movie to the story?
Yeah, I'll get to that. But as it turns out, I was doing my first compilation book. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it was Not Fade Away. And for the introduction, I asked Cameron if he would write the foreword to it. And so he's, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. And so he did it and sent it in. It was just fine. And then he said, I have a favor to ask you. I'm working on a movie. It's kind of autobiographical, but not really. And there's a character in it. It's you, because you're the guy who got me into Rolling Stone and edited me the first year and my first cover story and all that when I was about 15. And I said, I vaguely remember that, Cameron. And so what are you asking for permission to play me in the movie? And I gave it to him right away and asked nothing about it except to go down to LA where they had the set that approximated the Rolling Stone offices. And there I was seeing it for the first time and made a couple of little corrections. But when I saw the whole movie, I came to think of it over the years as basically a very wonderful Valentine's card, a love letter to rock and roll and the rock scene of the early to mid 70s, and particularly the romance of it all for a young kid who was about 14 years old, living in San Diego, loving the music coming out of LA and other major cities. And so I think Cameron painted a wonderful picture of those feelings. And also he tried to do the same for Kate Hudson's character, Penny Lane, and her band aids. And he tried to do the same for the roadies and the other folks who were part of the scene, whether it was at the auditorium or at the Riot House. And then he also tried to, of course, tell his story about being this fledgling journalist being tutored by the likes of Lester Bangs, and then at Rolling Stone by me. The thing that happened with the movie that is obviously not real is the whole Rolling Stone relationship with him. And the fact was that he depicted Rolling Stone as basically turning its back on him when the chips came down as to whether or not he had gotten the story right. And he had notes to back up his reporting and some tapes. And I don't think that we would have said, no, I think we believe Stillwater, and we're going to cancel the cover story now and bring in something else, and and demoralize young Cameron Crowe. That never happened with any of his stories. And then also the style with which he was treated by me, chasing him around the country from hotel to auditorium, trying to get that assignment in, and tough and merciless and scary. Nobody recognized that in me except for the loudness of my shirts. That was about the most accurate part of the portrayal of me, because I know today's an off day, but I happen to have a sense of humor. And so that was never attempted by Cameron. And I told him that. I said, we had lots of laughs. And he's not in the movie. He said, oh, I think it's really funny. I think you're really funny. I said, okay. Well, can you point out one line? Maybe he thought that when I said the fax machine spat out a page every 14 minutes, that I was being funny. But that was
the reality.
What those Xerox telecopy machines did crank out. And we used it primarily to try to get Hunter Thompson to file from wherever the hell he was on the campaign trail. And poor David Felton, who was portrayed also in Almost Famous, was assigned to be his editor and babysitter. And so many nights he would be sitting by the Mojo machine, the Mojo wire, we call the fax, waiting for Hunter Thompson to finally come through with a page. And then the machine would start whirring, and David would run over and wait for the page to come out, and it would come out, and it would just have "fuck you" in the middle of the page, and on to another wait in another room. So that was life at Rolling Stone.
Oh my God.
I was gonna ask you about Hunter. I'm sure, how can we not talk about Hunter for 2 minutes here? Right. But one of the probably, most also iconic sort of writers of our time, and gonzo journalism. And what was it like? You had to manage him, right?
No, I wouldn't dare.
Oh, okay. So what was it like just trying to, aside from waiting for beyond the fuck you in the middle of the page, what can you tell us about Hunter here quickly and briefly that it's maybe no one's heard before?
Yeah, I would say that he single-handedly changed the course of the magazine. I think that the magazine and the music scene had begun to get a little tired. I think corporatization was beginning to take over a lot of it. Media was changing. Competition from not other magazines so much as all other media. Where before, when Rolling Stone started, the daily papers paid scant coverage to rock and roll. They tended to come around only if there was a drug bust or a riot. And so now things were settling down again and getting a little too quiet, and along comes Hunter Thompson. And he wasn't writing about music, but rock and roll infused his writing and his adventures and his way of putting down those adventures and fantasizing them and turning them into something nobody had ever read before. And he came from mainstream journalism. He had written a straight ahead book about the Hells Angels. But he just had this inspiration to write in this particularly psychedelic, hallucinogenic style and populate his stories with these half fictional characters, like his attorney, Oscar Acosta. And his Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas enlivened the magazine, had people riveted and waiting to laugh again at the next episode. It was like early episodic television. And so he became a character, and that didn't help him too much because that brought on serious issues with drugs and with his family and with finances. So it became a battle between him and Jan Wenner, the publisher. Jan was the one who really had to manage Hunter, if anybody really tried, because he held the purse strings. No story, no moolah. And David Felton was the primary editor, who was assigned to babysit the articles and get them to be in shape, because quite often they were completely disorganized, and David would have to make his best guess at what Hunter really meant to do, if anything, and slap together something that felt like a story, and then throw it over to the copy editors and the typesetters and roll on and barely meet the deadline. So, and David, here's another cute thing about Rolling Stone, was assigned that role in despite the fact that his nickname was the Stone Cutter, because beginning at the LA Times, he was a feature writer. He was known for not ever meeting a deadline. And this is not easy to pull off at a daily newspaper in the third biggest city in the country with that kind of deadline pressure. And he just, not yet, I'll get it. I'll get to it next week or whatever. And so he was the guy. The LA Times one time assigned him a New Year's story in September, and he got it in time for the New Year's in the following year. So they were pleased with that. Now, he got something. I don't know how he lasted so long, but he was perfect for Rolling Stone. He wrote some of our most brilliant pieces, especially about comedy. Lily Tomlin, Richard Pryor, Steve Martin, Brian Wilson, not a comedian, but still a stellar piece. And he helped cover the Manson family along with David Dalton, and won a major magazine award for doing that. So he was more than the guy standing next to me in Almost Famous, puffing away on his cigarette holder.
Right.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Listen, we are
wait,
at a point. Go
I want
ahead.
to say one more time, because we were talking about Hunter S. Thompson, and I just have to share. It was so crazy. I was at the Bellage Hotel off of San Vicente and Sunset, and they had a tiny little bar in there. And my girlfriend and I had come in. I think I was meeting her for something, for a quick drink. And at the bar was sitting Hunter S. Thompson. We never left the bar. It was hilarious. It was the craziest night of my life. I'm not going to divulge anything more, but what an interesting guy. That's all I can say.
Without a doubt.
Bottom line, very interesting. And not always wild and crazy, sometimes pretty moody and not standoffish, but lonely by himself, even in a party scene. Other times, it's like the bar.
Well, we are at the point in the show where we're going to bring in another guest.
Yay! But
We
no.
have so many things. I mean, look, I have right here. If it wasn't for this book right here, I never would have met you. And I'm grateful for this book. I looked it up. It was published in 2013. So 10 years ago. And you know, it's officially signed to me. So I'm grateful for this. It's a great book. It's a great story. But right now we're going to.
And I want to thank you for everything you've done.
Yeah, big time.
Everything. It's just, you've contributed and the blessings you've gave this world.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that very
And
much.
stay with us here.
Oh, yeah, don't leave. You're stay here, Ben. You're not leaving. We want to welcome to the Rock and Talk Show, Cassidy Fleeman of the Anti-Groupies, her band, an all-female rock band. Welcome, Cassidy. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
We're doing great. We're just sitting here hearing some of the best stories I've ever heard from BEN FONG-TORRES here.
I bet.
Do you know what's so cool if you think about it? The ears of Ben, and now he's gonna hear what you play. And what he's heard over the last 50, 60 years, the greatest of all time.
So
That's
no
not
pressure.
intimidating.
And
Yeah,
then
that's
you
not
can get
intimidating
nervous.
at all.
Don't get
Well, I'm
nervous.
not going to critique it. I'm going to let my AI do it.
Yeah, exactly. So Cassidy, tell us a little bit about yourself and your band. When did you start playing?
I started playing about 5 years ago. I'm 20 now, so I started playing when I was about 15. And I mean, soon as I picked up a guitar, I started a band, even though I was absolutely horrible at guitar. But I was like, yeah, girl music, this is so awesome. But yeah, I mean, my band has been a band for about 2 years now. We're an all-girl like rock band from Orange County, and
Wow.
yeah.
Well,
I
here's
love your name. I love the name of the band.
Thank
Anti-Groupies.
you.
How
Thank
did you
you.
come up with that?
it's the only musicians I've ever heard that would have that name.
Yeah, it's very suiting.
Who's Anti-Groupies?
Yeah, we came up with that actually. It was my idea because in my old band, I had guys in my band, but when I was 15, one of my first gigs, I like showed up with my guitar and I was all ready, and the bouncer was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, fans aren't allowed in yet." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, fans aren't allowed in yet. Sorry, you're gonna have to wait." And I was like, "Oh, no, like I'm in the band." And he was like, "Sorry, sweetheart, you're gonna have to wait outside. You're not fooling me." And I was just like, so like, wow. And I like, you would think like, oh, what, that was like 2020. Even nowadays, like 2023, you think like people are still like so shocked, like that doesn't exist. Girl rockers are so cool and all this stuff. And I'm like, I still go to places and people still like, it's like, oh, are you even in a band? Or like, do you just dress up? And like, is that so cool? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
I've been accused of not being me.
Can I just say I really appreciate the fact that you picked up a guitar and you just put your foot forward to do the damn thing. That's what punk rock is about.
Yeah.
That's the spirit. And thank you very much, because your story, you're still in the early stages of your story,
Yeah.
but it's inspirational. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well,
One of my favorite punk rock heroes, Mike Watt. He'll tell everybody, start your own band.
Yeah.
He doesn't want, and that's what it's about. Do it, and you're
Exactly.
doing it. So we're happy you're here with us.
Yeah,
Thank you. And it made me such a
first-
better musician. Like, honestly, like picking up an instrument and like instead of just sitting in my room and like practicing, like going out and playing with people who are better than you and like having to learn stuff so fast and going out and play shows just makes you so much better than just sitting in your room and learning little covers. Like, you grow so much.
Oh, there's no question to learn from playing on the bandstand. I mean, that's
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You got to jump in with both feet to really be wet.
I first met Cassidy we all know Cooper Jones, our good friend Cooper.
Yeah.
And there was a benefit, Cooper Fest at his house in Redondo, and they had, a bunch of bands playing, and saw the Anti-Groupies there, saw familiar faces there, and saw Poppy Harlow there, Cooper's band.
Yeah.
So it was pretty amazing. So you're going to sing a song. Is this an original song? Is this something you wrote?
Yeah, this is an original song. It's one of our newer like anti-groupie songs I wrote. So yeah.
Tell us
Not a lot
about
of
it.
people have heard it. It's called Voicemail. It's actually about someone like leaving me a voicemail, and it's kind of mean, but it's like, oh, like I wish the best for you, but like kind of putting you down also. It was actually from like a local musician in the scene that is kind of like not fan of girl rockers. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, it's kind of like talking about like, oh, like I wish the best for you, but like also like don't go ahead of me and like I don't support you. So yeah.
You ready?
Interesting. Okay, we're ready.
Go ahead. The stage is yours.
Thank you. This song's called Voicemail. Hey, so I'm just gonna let you know that you're a cause I am just a narcissist. So here's my bullshit, I'm really full of it. Call me back when you get this. 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 You heard what I said, and you know that I mean it. If you think this song's about you, it probably is. You think that I'm sorry, so you go and call me. Save your voicemail for someone who gives a. Hey, so I'm just calling to let you know that you're a. I love you dearly, but I don't mean it. I'm just calling to make it feel sorry, cause I am just a narcissist. So here's my bullshit, I'm really full of it. Call me back when you get this. 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 You heard what I said, and you know that I mean it. If you think that I'm sorry, I'm probably right. If you think this song's about you, it probably is. Save your voicemail for someone who gives a. If you think this song's about you, it probably is. If you think this song's about you, it probably is. If you think this song's about you, it probably is. If you think this song's about you, it probably is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Cassidy Fleeman of the Anti-Groupies.
Thank you.
That was great.
I
Thank
like
you.
I like the chorus. I like the line. If you think this song's about you, it probably is. It reminds me of a song. One of my favorite bands of all time are Little Feat, and Paul Barrere wrote a song. If your phone don't ring, you know it's me. And it's got that same kind. It's got that same kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
know, and I was thinking about Carly Simon.
Yeah, you're so vain. Yeah,
I know,
I'm
I'm like,
inspired by
oh,
that.
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And what do you think?
What do you think?
Morissette in there too.
Yeah.
What was that?
All right, say that again.
A bit of Alanis Morissette in there too.
Yes, yes.
Really a nice voice. Really
Thank
good.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
Very
You know,
honest.
and
Very
yeah,
honest.
when you're singing from a personal experience, that's what I like. I hear you. You know, I know the story, but your personal experience goes right into your voice. So
Thank you.
good work.
Thank
Really
you.
cool.
All right. That's it.
What's going on with the Anti-Groupies? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram with the Anti-Groupies, or any streaming platform, the Anti-Groupies. We only have one single out right now, but we're gonna be in the studio in April. We're recording an album, so that's exciting. We're shooting music videos,
Yippee.
and we're working. I actually was just in the High Wired magazine for March, so that's exciting. I
Nice.
shot with Jack Liu, who's very known, and
Nice.
I did an article, so that was awesome. So. Lots of exciting stuff going on.
Yippee.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're having a good ride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been so
Right.
awesome. Yeah.
That's what it
Right.
counts.
And also, Ben, you have some things coming up? You are going to be getting an honorary doctorate.
Oh
You
yeah.
wanna tell us about that.
Wow.
Yes, it's a great honor from the California State University Board of Trustees and my alma mater, San Francisco State University. And at commencement in May, they will honor me with an honorary doctorate of fine arts.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Wow, congrats.
So that's very
awesome.
very lovely. But I will not be taking new patients for the next 3 months.
I was
Might make an exception for Cassidy and the Anti-Group.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
and you have a radio show that you do with Moon Alice, another
Right.
San Francisco band. Where do people
Oh.
find that?
Oh, it's www.moonaliceradio.com. It is also searchable through Live 365 and TuneIn. It is the members of the band each doing a repeated 3-hour show all week. I do a new show every Saturday from 9 to 12 a.m. and p.m. and that runs for a week until a new show is produced, and it's ridiculously eclectic. It's Adele and all the way to ZZ Top, with even and Pink is in there too. So got to find some Fishbone.
Yep.
Yeah, man. It's some new look for the new Fishbone. We need somebody to give it a boost.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about Moon Alice is obviously one of the great venture kind of funding sources of all time. Is I just did a blank on his name. Who was
Roger McNamee?
Roger McNamee. And actually I knew McNamee back from in the early 90s with our company when we had a public company called Seventh Level, and he was all part of that. And I've known Roger for years, and that's a crazy cool band. It's a very dead-like band, and they've got an incredible art collection of posters that they put together those times. Yeah, so Roger, yes. If you see him, say hi for me.
He commissions a new poster every show, and so he gives a lot of work to a lot of artists dating back to the 60s up to contemporary artists today. And he just pulled about a year or so ago, he added the Chambers brothers, Lester Chambers and his son Dylan Chambers, along with the T Sisters, an a cappella. Well, they're a three-sister harmony group that plays all kind of music, and added them to the Moon Alice family. So now it's 10 strong, and they're going to be performing this month and next. So just go to moonalice.com, and I'll be working with them on a fundraiser in late May. So that'll be fun.
Wow.
Well, listen, Cassidy, go ahead.
Wait, one more thing, because looks like you're going to be on Saturday with Alanis Morissette and Baz Luhrmann, Jan Wenner. Sorry, I was going to say that wrong. I knew I was going to butcher that. And Cheech and Chong.
Oh,
so,
those are in the recent past. Those are in the recent past. Baz Luhrmann for Elvis. Also Sasha Jenkins for the Louis Armstrong story, and Memoir, and Cheech and Chong were part of the Sketch Fest here in San Francisco, a comedy festival. So I've done all those, and next up is Alanis at the Fox Oakland in Oakland. And we're going to do a little 30-minute bubbles and banter chat and talk about this program. I have enough to go 3 hours with Alanis, but she's just so brilliant. So and fun, and I'll be looking forward to sitting with her for a few minutes.
By the way,
you guys, I've got to go to sound check. I got to go to sound check. I got to go.
Perk. Have a good show.
Have a great show.
Yeah.
Ben, just so you know, you've got 3 hours of material with Alanis. We could top that. We could do 4 with you, no problem. Just for the record. So
that's very good of you.
I just want to say thank you to both Cassidy and Ben.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Ben, we're also grateful, for your work and your thumbprint on rock and roll history. You've really you mean a lot to all of us. So next time I'm in the Bay Area, lunch on me. And
I won't make you sit in my waiting room in my doctor's office.
Okay, good. I appreciate that.
And you don't have to have the lunch on him. You can actually have it on a plate if you like.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, here we go. We're getting funny. We're all getting funny now.
So
good.
So don't go away. Our next show's coming up in 2 weeks. You can check out the Anti-Groupies, follow them. You can find Ben Fong-TORRES very easily just by searching his name. Follow us on all the local, all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And you guys don't go away. We're going to play our closing and don't go away just yet. Go ahead.
Go on Netflix and see the documentary.
Oh yeah. And don't forget to go on Netflix and check out Like a Rolling Stone.
Incredible.
And until our next show.
See you next time on the Rock and Talk Show Beyond Backstage with your hosts, Norwood Fisher, Kenny Olson, Scott Page, Stephen Perkins, Sheila Conlon, and David Moss. Executive producers, Sheila Conlon and David Moss. Producer and director, Eric Lloyd. Assistant producer and creative director, Mark Armentano. Editor, Graham Cooper. Theme music by ThinkX. Powered by JBL and AKG. Artist Relations, TPI Films. Special thanks to From the Earth, ThinkX, The Conlon Company, and Mac. Check us out on YouTube/The Rock and Talk Show, Facebook and Instagram at The Rock and Talk Show.
And until next week, or next